Hi, I'm Mike from OpenRV, and in this video, I'll be showing you how to replace your Trident's motors. The process is not difficult, but attention to detail is very important. If you follow the instructions, you'll be able to swap out your old motors for new ones like we do in the production line. A detailed written guide with a ton of photos is also available. The link to that is in the description below. And if you have any questions or are unsure about any part, please contact us at support@openrv.com. Are you ready? Let's do this!
This process can take about an hour, but we've edited this video to under 15 minutes, so don't feel rushed. Just pause it and resume when you're ready. All right, so let's take a look at the contents of your motor replacement kit. You got 2 horizontal motors, 1 vertical motor, 2 horizontal props, 1 left and 1 right, 1 vertical prop, M2 and M3 screws, a pair of L wrenches, 3 gaskets, and some grease to go along with those gaskets, and some Loctite. Let's take a moment to talk about screws. Every time a screw is used, you'll see this graphic with an arrow pointing to the screw for that step. It's important to use the right amount of torque when tightening screws. Over-tightening can critically damage your Trident, so we're going to use this general rule. Tighten a screw until it begins to feel tight, then tighten an additional quarter turn, 90 degrees and no more. Use the L wrenches provided because they'll keep you from over-torquing. Do not reuse screws except for the horizontal motor covers. Additional tools that we'll be using are a smaller Phillips head screwdriver, a sturdy, larger screwdriver, tweezers, compressed air, isopropyl alcohol, wipes, scissors, and Q-tips. All right, first things first, we're going to go ahead and attach the horizontal props to the horizontal motors. So go ahead and cut the tip of that Loctite off, and then we're going to place 1 drop of the Loctite into one of the horizontal props. 1 drop is all you need. To attach the prop, hold the motor shaft with 1 hand and slowly screw the prop onto the shaft until it bottoms out. All right, so it stopped there. I'm going to give it a quick wiggle to make sure everything's secure. Wipe off any excess Loctite. And do the same thing for the other horizontal motor. Now we attach the vertical prop to the vertical motor using 2 M3 6mm screws. Place the vertical prop onto the vertical motor, line up the 2 holes, and use the larger of the L wrenches provided to fasten. Tighten screws until they begin to feel tight. Squeak, 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 squeak. Then give it another quarter turn to finish it off. Give it a little wiggle test to make sure it's securely fastened. Now we're going to pop off those motor covers using our Phillips head. Be sure to save these screws for later. And now we will remove the vertical motor cover using the larger L wrench. Once we remove those screws, the motor plug will still be attached. So go ahead and just set the motor cover aside until we remove the motor plug. Okay, so the next big step in the process is to disconnect the motor plugs. Use the smaller of the L wrenches provided for this one and just loosen them up. Once both screws are loose, remove the motor plug. And same for the left motor. Go ahead and repeat the process for the vertical motor plug. When you do that, the vertical motor and cover are now detached from Trident. Set the vertical motor and cover aside. We'll get back to that in a few minutes. Now we are removing the 2 screws from the horizontal motor mount using the larger of the L wrenches provided. Now back over to the left side. Okay, so go ahead and get a sturdy screwdriver, place it in the area shown, and gently push the motor until it's completely removed. All right, now we're going to go ahead and detach the vertical motor from the vertical motor mount using the larger L wrench provided. So the next major step is cleaning all those motor pass-throughs. You may see sand, dirt, and debris in the motor compartments. Now's a good time to clean all that out. If you have a lot of corrosion on your pass-throughs, isopropyl alcohol with a Q-tip really helps clean off that corrosion. And then hit it with a wipe and some compressed air. Should be good to go. So now that our pass-throughs are clean, we're going to add some grease that is provided in the kit. A nice, generous amount in the middle of all three contact points. We are now going to place a gasket right on top of the pass-through, followed by a nice, generous amount of grease. Do this for all three pass-throughs. All right, so it's finally time to install your brand new motors. Right now, we're viewing the Trident upside down. So this side is starboard, and this side is port. The right motor, which has an R on the propeller, will go on the starboard side. The left motor, which has an L on the propeller, will go on the port side. So we're starting with the right motor on the starboard side. And we get the motor in place for the next step, which is a little tricky, so watch closely. The mount part on the motor fits in underneath the mount part on Trident. To get the holes aligned for the mounting screws, we're going to start with one side of the motor, like this. Then we're going to push down with your sturdy, larger screwdriver on the other side of the motor. This will allow you to get the motor in place and the screw holes aligned. Afterwards, we're going to take our M3 10mm screw and start fastening it to one side of the motor mount. We're going to tighten that to about 3/4 of the way tight, then we're going to start on the other side. This makes sure that the motor sits in the mount exactly as it should. Once you start feeling some resistance while tightening, go ahead and give it a final quarter turn until fully tightened. Give it a quick wiggle test to make sure it's truly tight. All right, cool. So now we're going to plug in the motor plug through the pass-through. Line up those pins to the holes. Keep those wires clear. Press it down firmly. Cool, and now we're going to add the M2 screws to the motor plugs. Use your smaller L wrench. Tighten the first motor plug screw about 3/4 of the way tight, and then start on the other one. Our general rule for fastening screws is super important here. Over-tightening could mean sending your Trident to us for repair. Wait till you get some resistance, and then add another quarter turn. So now we're just going to repeat the same process with the other horizontal motor. Now we're on the port side, so we're going to use the left motor, which has an L on the prop. All right, so now we're going to put your new vertical motor onto the vertical motor cover. We're going to put the vertical motor cables through that little slot. This can be a bit tricky. Hang in there and stay patient. All right, once you got those cables in there, we're going to use the M3 6mm screws and go ahead and fasten the motor cover to the vertical motor. Again, just give a quick little wiggle check to make sure everything is tightened. Now the next step is to install your vertical motor. Line up the motor pins to the pass-through. And then we're going to use another pair of M2 5mm screws and tighten that with the smaller L wrench that's provided. So we're going to start with the first screw, get it again to about 3/4 tight, and then start on the other screw. Remember not to over-tighten. It is critically important for this step. When you start feeling some resistance, give it another quarter turn to make sure it's tight. Okay, so when fully installing the motor cover, one big thing we have to be mindful of are the motor wires. You want to make sure that all the wires are still in the groove. No wires are pinching. Make sure it presses down flush against everything else pretty easily. And then use the remaining M3 6mm screws and tighten with the larger L wrench. Be sure here that you're using the M3 6mm screws and not the M3 10mm screws because you'd run the risk of pulling out the threaded inserts in the Trident's body. And as usual, keep our rule in mind. Once you begin to feel the screw getting tight, give it another quarter turn. Cool, okay. So to finish up, we're going to put the motor covers back on. Due to this little tab on each motor cover, there's only one way for it to fit in. So go ahead and slide that back in. Make sure it's flush with the rest of the body. And then again, using our Phillips head screwdriver, just screw the screws in till tight and you're good to go. I know some of you will be really excited to get back in the water, but due to the thread locker cure time, you're going to have to wait about 24 hours until you test out your new motors.
Hope everything went smoothly. If you need any more instruction, remember we have a detailed written guide with a ton of photos. The link to that is in the description box below. If you need any additional help, please feel free to contact us at support@openrv.com. See you next time.